Why so serious?
Hey guys, Jack Atlas Fan 69 here. Sorry I haven't uploaded in a couple of months. I've recently been on an apology tour across America after a recent string of racist incidents I won't be explaining at this time. You might not know this, but I'm actually a huge fan of anime, and today I want to talk about an iconic show I've been a longtime fan of for 3 days now. I recently watched all 3 of the Madoka movies, including the 2 recap films and Rebellion. Personally, I really enjoyed the experience, but it seemed like my friends were really struggling to understand the plot when they watched it.
Hump me, Zelda.
However, I personally have cleared over the period on 16 one time, and that basically makes me a god to these people. And I figured out that Madoka Magica's plot is actually really simple to understand once you figure out who the villain really is. It's literally just the stupid green-haired bitch. I know this might be a little bit hard to believe, especially for people who are more familiar with the show, but I think you'll begin to understand what I mean when I explain my rationale. At first I was suspicious after seeing this clip from episode 2.
You're both girls! Girls can't love girls! Girls can't love girls!
However, I think that odd hunch gave way to full-on suspicion after an incident in episode 4, where we see Hitomi gathering a building full of people with the express intention of killing them with toxic gas.
Duetting this until this woman permanently destroys her lungs with toxic gas. So first we got ammonia-based toilet cleaner, okay? And that's bleach batter. Okay, you've made mustard gas.
Now the part that really stuck out to me about this scene, which I think a lot of Madoka Magica fans tend to forget, is that Hitomi is doing this completely of her own conscious free will. She is, completely of her own accord, attempting to kill several dozens of people, which was only stopped at the last second by Madoka. I'm sure some of you in the audience aren't entirely convinced. You might be thinking, well, if she really did try to kill an entire building full of people, why are Madoka and Sayaka still friends with her for the rest of the show? I know it might seem a little confusing, but I kinda get it, to be honest. I mean, I've definitely forgiven my friends for things that are a lot worse than trying to kill a whole building full of people. One of them said the ending of Amori was bad. With episode 4 out of the way, now we can take a look at Sayaka's character arc, which really begins to unravel over the next several episodes. Basically, to summarize what happens, Sayaka spends several episodes ignoring a lot of red flags, uses a magical girl wish to help her crush heal from a permanent career-ending injury, basically stares at the camera and says what could possibly go wrong, and then things start going wrong. I think where everything really starts to go to shit is this scene on the overpass. This is where all of the magical girls, well, not Mommy, she already died. Actually, now that I think about it, Homer would probably also know because of time looping. So literally just these 3 learn that soul gems are actual souls, just detached from your body so you can fight witches better. They do not take it very well. The shock of the revelation, combined with possibly the trauma of having your soul detached for a prolonged period of time, is what really starts Sayaka down her downward spiral. But I'm sure you're thinking, well, what does this have to do with Hitomi? Hitomi wasn't even here, she couldn't have witnessed any of this, right? Well, let's just say I have a different theory in mind. But actually, now that I think about it, this one's probably not my brightest idea. We can just go ahead and shelf this one for now, actually. Now it's time for episode 7.
Was that 7?
This is where Hitomi does that thing everyone remembers her for. But before we get to that iconic scene, we have a different scene between Sayaka and Kyoko in the destroyed church, where Kyoko tells her about her backstory, warns her that wishing for other people's sakes ultimately goes to complete shit, and also to stay away from Hitomi because she resembles a mysterious green-haired girl who may have had something to do with the death of her entire family. Interesting. However, Sayaka's response to Kyoko basically pouring her heart and soul out is saying, nah, I'm different. I'm literally him, and fucks off. Then Hitomi immediately dunks on her. She sits Sayaka down and basically tells her she has 24 hours to ask what's-his-name out before she steals him from her. Hey, that's a pretty normal thing to do to your friends, huh? Sayaka proceeds to take this extremely poorly, mostly because of her ongoing existential crisis over being not quite so human anymore, screams at a guy for cheating on his girlfriend, and then she explodes. Now, the big question mark here, I feel, is why did Hitomi choose this specific moment to act on this, if she had a crush on him so much? Is it because she only thinks Kyosuke matters to her when he isn't handicapped? Is Hitomi homophobic and ableist? Probably. But personally, I think the real reason for this goes a lot deeper. You see what I'm trying to say here? Maybe what I'm trying to say with this entire video. I think Hitomi knows everything. I think she's completely aware of magical girls, everything involving both them and witches, everything involving Kyubei's entire race, and everything in the wider scope of Madoka Magica's lore. My theory is she saw Kyosuke out of the hospital, having made a miraculous recovery from a permanent injury, recognized that this could have only happened because of a magical girl's wish, deduced that it was Sayaka who made the wish because, duh, and then chose to put a lot of pressure all at once on her to make her go completely apeshit, a plan that clearly worked just as intended. I actually didn't remember this until my friend Brian showed me again, but there's actually a scene that comes after the middle of episode 11, when Madoka's hot mom and the femcel teacher are talking about Sayaka's death in a bar, sometime after her funeral. The teacher comments about how Hitomi seemed abnormally content and happy after the incident, and how sometimes Hitomi would smile or laugh to herself when she thinks she's alone. Madoka's hot mom agrees that this is kind of suspicious. I think this scene definitely helps make it clear that Hitomi's intentions in Sayaka's death were completely malicious in nature, so a huge shout out to Brian for showing me this scene again. After this point, the rest of the season pretty much just focuses on Homura and Madoka, and Hitomi is in a disaster shelter, so for the last few episodes, she doesn't really do anything evil. Well, I mean, nothing on screen at least. And that's it for the main show. Before I start talking about the Rebellion movie, make sure to like the video and comment what you thought about Amori's ending. Unless you thought it was bad, you can keep that to yourself, champ. I am actually going to discuss major details of Rebellion, including the big twist, so if you haven't watched the movie yet and you don't want to be spoiled, I'll give you a couple more seconds to click off the video before I start talking again. So here's the way I understand it. Homura, sometime after the show ends, gives into grief, creates a labyrinth shaped like their town, and subconsciously starts pulling people she knows into it. Yeah, okay, like that tracks, I understood it. The only question I have is, why is Hitomi even here? Like, we don't ever see Homura and Hitomi talk once at all. I'm pretty sure to Homura, she's just the nebulous green thing that sometimes shows up around Madoka. Now that I think about it, that's probably also how she sees Sayaka. But you expect me to believe, despite that, she's somehow just as important to Homura as the actual magical girls? And then adding to that, you expect me to believe the same thing about her boyfriend who Homura super duper never fucking talked to? Well, okay, so why is she here then? Here's what I think. You see, if Hitomi was going to get into Homura's labyrinth, there were basically going to be either two options. The first would be to find some way to sneak in, like Sayaka and Nagisa did, but that would require some sort of intense godlike power to break through. And obviously, Hitomi isn't going to throw her cards on the table and use her absolute godlike power just yet. That means the only way available to her was to be pulled in through Homura's subconscious like Mami and Kyoko were. And so in order to do that, she would have to find a way to lodge herself into Homura's subconscious, or in other words, stick out in her mind enough so that she would be pulled into the labyrinth with the others. Adding to this, it looks like none of the characters aged very much, if at all, by the time Homura fell into despair, meaning Hitomi would have had an extremely small window of time to work with between the end of the show and the start of Rebellion. So, how could Hitomi have convinced Homura to care that she exists in the short time frame before Homura fell into despair? Or I guess what I'm really asking is, what could Hitomi have done to cause both of these things to happen at the same time? You see, as I've spent the first 7 minutes of this video flawlessly proving beyond a shadow of a doubt, Hitomi has always been privy to high concept information she isn't supposed to have. I believe this mysterious X factor allowed her to remember the original timeline. She remembered the events of the original show, and she especially remembered Madoka. You see, I think this is the point this entire video has been leading to. My thesis, if you will. I'm saying the Rebellion movie happened because Hitomi took that knowledge of Madoka. She went right up to Homura, and she fucking did it again! It works every fucking time. You see, the genius thing is this also explains Homura's unexpected heel turn at the end of the movie. I know to the untrained eye, it looked really stupid because Homura was about to have literally everything she wanted, but now it makes perfect sense. This wasn't a poorly conceived character assassination of Homura, it's just all Hitomi's fault. Homura knew that even if she tried to spend eternity with Madoka, if she didn't put her in the fuck you infinity gaslighting realm, she would have just lost Madoka to Hitomi somehow. See? This makes everything make complete sense, you guys. I truly solved Rebellion. The only two questions left to answer is, why is Kyosuke also in the labyrinth, and why is Hitomi so all-knowing and powerful? Kyosuke being here is actually simple enough. I'm pretty sure Hitomi just brought him in here as one more big middle finger to Sayaka. I mean, obviously Sayaka's over and everything, but you know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? As for the source of Hitomi's knowledge and power, well, based on everything I've seen, I can confidently say Hitomi is the embodiment of entropy in the universe. That's why her MO has always been pushing magical girls to fall to grief. And I'm pretty sure if she's fueled by some supernatural eternal embodiment of despair and entropy, that would explain how she has access to pretty much the entire knowledge base of the magical girl system. In fact, as I'm sure the fourth movie will explain in detail, I believe Hitomi is Walpurgis. I mean, the signs have pretty much always been there. At this point, if you don't understand why I'm saying this, I don't know what to tell you. It's like we watched completely different shows or something. I'm sure something in Magica Record would further prove this point, but I never played it because I think all gacha games are the devil's work. And I also think Brian should stop playing Genshin Impact. Well, that's finally the end of this video. When I sat down to start making this, I think everybody thought it was just going to be a brief shitpost like my other videos, not 12 fucking minutes long, and definitely not 2 to 3 weeks of work. If this video does get enough traction, I'll make a follow-up video in a year when the fourth movie, Walpurgis Not Rising, finally comes out. I mean, presuming it doesn't get delayed again, and presuming I don't die of natural causes by the time it actually releases. In the meantime, you can subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to be alerted the next time I drop a video. Although, it might be a while before I upload again. Let's just say I've been given some unfortunate news. But surely, I'll be able to at least make one more video before winter 2025, right? Surely. Surely. Definitely. Oh, by the way, I just want to give a huge last-second shout-out to Falcods for finally making the fucking risotto.